My name is Daniel Efergan. I am the Group Creative Director of the Interactive team here at Aardman, which kind of means I look after the creative team members within the Interactive team. There was seeds that started it. So there was a project. There was a guy, Paul Dean. He now works at the BBC, and he's like grandfather interactive. And he pulled us all together, and I'd known him for a while, so that was part of the reason why I got the opportunity to come in. We built around a particular project, and we delivered that. And then it was kind of near the end of that. It was a bit like, right, okay, now if we're going to keep doing this, what should we be? And even that didn't go quickly. You're very hand to mouth. It felt like a startup company in the middle of Aardman. So we were just surviving for the first year, and then finally got to a point where we could start thinking about our future, I think year 2 onwards. And everyone was supportive, but I think one of our journeys we've gone through is helping everyone, all the different kind of sectors and industries and that cross over here at Aardman, trying to help them understand what interactivity means and what it could be and the potential of it. The very beginning of our existence 10 years ago, I think, was quite similar to a lot of digital agencies in that we were marketeers. There wasn't a structured funding model, ways to kind of make money outside of being a form of advertising or a form of marketing for other stuff. And as that's grown up, as the industry's grown up, we've kind of grown up with it to transfer into a tangible product that, you know, has value in itself and can be either sold in itself, but also just appreciated as a creative endeavor that should be within the world. For us, it's always about idea. I imagine a lot of people would say the same thing. But there's a few things we do to try and ensure that the love and the care and the passion comes with it. So one thing we've fought against is splitting apart the idea creators and the people that produce the project. We don't believe that, I think over time what happens is you end up with people over here going, oh, I've got this great idea, and then throwing it over this virtual fence to a load of production people that are then kind of like, oh, I've got to make this, and I don't necessarily love it. So one thing we do is we make sure the people that are going out, the creative directors that are working on the project and the producers that are on it, just really care about what they're doing, pitch it, believe in it, and then have to deliver it as well all the way through to the end. In terms of actually establishing what that idea is, that kind of depends on a project-by-project basis. We are very hand-built, which kind of suits the culture of Aardman. We don't tend to lean on, technical engines or previously supplied processes over and over again, potentially against our own benefits of efficiency. But it means that we consider each individual idea as its own thing. And that sometimes means getting lots of people in a room and shaving ideas off everyone's heads and trying to work out what the best thing is. Sometimes it involves 2 people sat in a quiet dark room by themselves, like talking through something until you get the right thing. And sometimes if it's more open, we try and find a real champion. So we'll ask lots of people to come up with ideas and then fan the flames of the ones that seem most interesting and try and get that person that believes in that idea to become the leader of it. There's 2 parts to that, I think, or 2 parts to keeping a passionate team going. One is the established culture already and how you keep that going. There's a big thing for me. Cultures are really kind of important but quite uncontrollable process. You try and do all the right things, but I've experienced it pop in like really short period of time, and so you've got this kind of very delicate, very I believe, I hope, very really good kind of culture here that we try and keep going, and so keeping that right is one of our big missions. But then picking the right people for that is probably the biggest influence you can have on culture. I think one of my greatest fear is dropping the wrong person into the middle of this thing and then seeing it all explode quite quickly. I think it's understanding what we mean by programming. I think there is programming as in here is a blank text file that I have to type the right commands into, and they do what I want, which for a very visually led person can be really bloody frustrating when just for the fact that it's a comma rather than a semicolon, the whole thing doesn't work. It's like, why? I kind of get that. But I think before any of that is understanding like algorithmic thinking, like stopping and thinking about breaking down problems in a way that a computer would think about it. And having that skill set, like having a way of kind of thinking about how things can be constructed in that way is the most important thing, because it allows you to communicate with and design your visual designs in ways that then translate nicely into programmatic systems. And it kind of suddenly opens up all these other ways of thinking about stuff, procedural design processes where you think about the rules you want to place into something to have the patterns out the other end. And that can be done visually by dragging things between nodes, or by working out your Photoshop actions that kind of get put in place. But the skill there is not necessarily the code, it's the way of thinking about problems and breaking them down. Yeah, I mean, I know definitely sometimes trying to get people to think in that way is a skill, but I think you've also got different kinds of minds. I mean, on a slightly slanted but related side, I've built up a metaphor to deal with all of my creative directors. So I kind of look after a team of other creative people that direct the projects. We just call them creative directors for ease, and there are very much two types. Or I kind of box them into two types. And so when approaching a project, we think about it. And the metaphor I use to communicate this both to clients and myself in my head is the puppets that we have here at Aardman. And to make a kind of puppet that you put onto a set, there is usually like a skeleton, a metal skeleton underneath, and then there's the flesh and the plasticine that makes it look like what it is. And for an interactive project to work, similarly, you need a kind of an inner structure that is quite programmatic, quite kind of useful, quite pragmatic in the way it's constructed. And you need the flesh, the character, and the way that it works, and the way it looks to the outside world, the feeling of it on the outside. And some creative directors see the outside and go, oh, I really want it to feel like that, and then work out what skeleton they need to make it hold together. And some just see straight through to the skeleton and then work out how to colour it in later. And both of them get to the same end result of a good project, but they approach it differently. And I think designers can be quite similar. They're like, I want it to look and feel like this. Now, how do I get it? But I have met quite technical designers that are, well, if I use this and this and this, it's probably going to look like that, which is the way I want it. And so I think it's you have to go with the way your heart and your brain works. But yeah, and then go from there.
Which one are you?
I think I am probably the skeleton on the inside. So being a coder originally, I think I look at the way systems work. My brain thinks in boxes with arrows go in between it. It's like my sketchbooks are just full of basically a box with an arrow. They don't always go anywhere. That seems what I do straight away at the beginning. And so I think I see patterns and structures and interconnecting ways that things work, and then translate them into the way people will feel. For any company, any group of people, whether it's 1 or 100, it's about caring. It's about finding something that you desperately want to bring into the world, and just doing that. Now that and money is where sometimes the conflicts come, because there is a point where you become just an artist and you're doing it purely for yourself and not for the needs of other, and then most people don't pay you money just to do things for yourself. But trying to juggle that line so that the things you're making you really, really want to exist, I think is what then makes you obviously passionate and obviously successful, and should see you through to keep going.